Welcome back. I'm sure you've noticed how many people now literally are begging for food, stopping motorists at a robot, asking them for food. People in some suburbs knocking on doors and just saying, can you help me? Well, there's some evidence now that someone in around 20% of our homes, so people in 1 in 5 of our households, are asking for food. Dr. Siphiwe Dlamini is a lecturer in the School of Physiology at Wits University, been conducting research on the impact of all of this on some. Dr. Dlamini, good afternoon to you. This is an incredible number. I was staggered to see, sure, I've seen a big increase in the number of people asking for food after the pandemic, but people from 1 in 5 households, I find that a staggering number.
Yes, thanks, Stephen. Absolutely, it's a very big number. It was a shocking number to see that 1 in 5 South African households, they have to send someone to beg for food in order to deal with the issues of food insecurity. So it's a really big number.
Someone to stand on the side of the road. When I leave here at the end of this shift, there's a woman and her young daughter who will be on the side of the road, even though the sun will be going down where I am. I saw them on my way in this morning. What does that do to someone? What does that do to their mental health, to be standing on the side of the road asking for money?
Well, what we found is, what we did is we tested a number of coping strategies to see which coping strategy mainly it's the most it's the strongest predictor of impaired mental health. So we tested levels of anxiety and depression, and then we found that begging for food was the most dangerous strategy. So those who were begging for food were at a higher risk of having anxiety and depression.
Is it about the begging? Is it about the being so desperate that they have to do it?
Absolutely. I think it's mostly because what we did is we looked at food insecurity in terms of socio-economic status as well, to see how those who are employed deal with food insecurity, or rather how those who are employed we looked at the prevalence of food insecurity among those who were employed and those who were not employed. We also compared the level of education as well. We also included some other factors as well, socio-economic factors. But we found that those who are at the lowest socio-economic status, they are those who are most affected by food insecurity. So I suppose in terms of the coping strategies that you would have to use, they are largely dependent on your socio-economic status as well. For example, there are coping strategies that are very common, like relying on less preferred food and cheaper food, as well as using credit to deal with food insecurity, using credit and borrowing money. But those coping strategies are mostly the privilege of those who are at a higher socio-economic status, those who are employed and those who do have some money to buy food. So those who beg for food, it's likely that it's most of them who don't have a choice, and it's the only strategy that works for them. So but they have to deal with the issues of mental health as well.
Is it possible to know if the people who do this are receiving a social grant, the 350 Rand social grant? And I'm not saying at all that 350 Rand will get a family through the month. There's no chance that it will. Do we know if they're getting that support, or if they're falling through the net, they're not actually getting that support for some reason?
In terms of coping with that, unfortunately, we do not compare those who are receiving grants to those who are not. So, but I suppose even that receiving the grants or having to stand in the queues as well, I'm sure it has also a negative health impact as well, having to stand in long queues just to receive the 350 Rand. And but in terms of those who receive grants, so I'm not sure if the coping strategies differ among when you compare to those who do not receive the grant.
Some people in their lives will have had to beg, and then they might get a sort of job and be able to fend for themselves, look after their families. But I'd imagine just having to beg for a period in your life must scar you as well. The damage of it must live with you for a long time.
Absolutely. I imagine that's the case as well. Because what is being proposed is that food insecurity links with the mental health because you have to constantly think about how you're going to get the food. So you have to constantly think about the problems of food insecurity and whether you can afford or not, or what's your next move. So all those thoughts, constantly thinking about them has been suggested to impair your mental health.
And Dr. Dlamini, I mean, it's quite a difficult area, but there'll be some middle-class people, some people who are earning, who are able to help. They will see the same person on the side of the road every day. They'll often see the same person directing traffic at an intersection. There are different things you can do. You can give a small bit of money each time. You can give a bit of food each time. You can put some food aside from the night before and make sure that person gets the food. Some people I know will once a month or once a week give quite a large sum of money, say 200 Rand a month or something, to a person and say to the person, I'm going to do this every month. Is that one way of helping someone to alleviate the stress, that some income they can rely on? Are there different things that people can do to help those who have no other recourse but to beg for food?
Absolutely, Stephen. So I believe that's one of the issues, like the way we perceive people who are begging on the street. So we do not understand their situation. Often one might think that they are there because we might think that they do have other options, but most of the time they do not have these options or other coping strategies that they can use. So with me, after the study was done, I started looking at them a bit differently, because if you remember that the study was done among household members, because at first I used to think that people who beg for food are those who are homeless most of the time. But if you find that 1 in 5 of they have to send someone to beg for food because they don't have enough food access. So for me it was shocking. So I started looking at things a bit differently now, thinking that maybe they do not have much of an option in terms of how they can deal with food insecurity. So I think that that change in mind it does assist in making the right decision on whether you're throwing the food away or you are giving it to someone who actually needs it.
Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Siphiwe Dlamini is a lecturer in the School of Physiology at Wits University.